Hey everybody, it's your girl Krisha, and I am so sorry that I did not post anything after the Valentine's Day unboxing. I had a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of stuff happening over there on Simply Desmond, and we did miss a day because we forgot to pre-record some things. But we're gonna get back on it. As a matter of fact, if you happen to be a Drag Race fan, you can go over there and listen to our podcast from episode 1. Right now, we are sitting at 12,000 views. Or, well, not 12,000, but 1,200 views. And that's a lot for both of us. Like, that's the most either one of us has ever gotten on either channel that we have. So, if you're here, I'm pretty sure you have looked at the title and you're like, what the fluff is endometriosis? Or more than likely your doctor has diagnosed you with endometriosis. And if you're here, I want you to know that I'm here for you. I am your friend in this, and we will get through this together. So stay tight, and we will discuss what Endometriosis Awareness Month is, what endometriosis is, and basically where you can go for support, pretty much, if you happen to be somebody who was diagnosed with it, or even if you were somebody who knows somebody who was diagnosed with it. Stay tuned, and we will talk about this together. Thank you. So, I guess you stayed. If you stayed, thank you. Now, we can discuss what this is. If you've been diagnosed, or if you know somebody who's been diagnosed with endometriosis, we can come here and we can discuss what this is. But first, it's March, and March is Endometriosis Awareness Month. And I'm pretty sure you're thinking, okay, we have a month. Like, is it that big of a deal? And it is. Endometriosis is extremely a big deal. Like, it is not made as big of a deal as it needs to be, which is the reason why we have our own month. And if you can't tell by my attire, our color is yellow. So if you see somebody walking around with a yellow ribbon, they might be supporting their troops. They might be supporting a family member with endometriosis. If they have a ribbon and it says, ask me about endometriosis awareness, then you know they are an endometriosis awareness supporter. So, when did we get a month? We got a month in 1993. Endometriosis actually had a whole organization started in the 80s. And that's pretty much where the color came from. They were handing out yellow brochures, and the yellow color just kind of stuck. We got a month because, in the early 90s, we used to just have like a couple of days or maybe even a week, and they realized, you know what, there's too many of us, and 1 week is not enough. So we got our own month. So that's pretty much the history of Endometriosis Awareness Month. Now, what the heck is endometriosis? Endometriosis is basically when the lining of your uterus, the tissue lining of your uterus, grows outside of your uterus. And that shit hurts. Like, it is no fun to have endometriosis. And if you're probably like, okay, how do you know that it hurts? It's probably just a period thing, which is a myth that people think. It is not just a period thing. I am a survivor of endometriosis. I had it, probably still have it, and it was not a cool trip, but that's a whole other story. And if you want me to talk about it, and I probably will anyway, it'll be on a completely different video. Right now, we're just here to get an education. Now, just as a disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional. But I am somebody who had or still has endometriosis. So it qualifies me the teeniest, tiniest bit on the ability to educate you on what it is. I can give you the real world perspective on it, and sometimes that's the easiest pill to swallow. So, now that we've discussed what it is, I'm pretty sure you're like, okay, how did I get this? Where did it come from? Is it an STD? And it's not. It's not an STD. As a matter of fact, it's hereditary. You can get it from your mom, you can get it from your dad's side of the family. It basically has no color, no race. There's no prejudice when it comes to endometriosis. There's even the rare case where endometriosis has affected men. There's 2 reported cases, but again, no standards whatsoever. So, who does it affect? Well, um, there are literally like 200,000 cases of reported women with endometriosis, and 20,000 of those women are actually African American women or people of color. So don't think that it's just one race's disease. Don't think it's just one gender's disease. It can affect whoever it wants to affect, pretty much. And it sucks. And, people don't understand it. And don't think that you're nuts because you're in pain. Just because somebody doesn't know how much pain you're in does not necessarily mean that you're blind to it. When I had it, I was taking, obscene amounts of medication to try and mask it, to try and hide how much pain I was in. I weaned myself off of pain medication for like the longest time, but the pain was just too much. So I'm pretty sure you're like, okay, if you have it, how do you know you have it? If you bleed heavy, if you have really heavy, heavy periods, more than likely you may have endometriosis. If they're painful, you might have endometriosis. If your stomach hurts, your abdomen hurts, you have pain during intercourse, more than likely you may have endometriosis or even PCOS, which is a completely different video. And if you need to, I can try to leave some links to some videos down below on people who have discussed having PCOS. So let's see. There are several myths about endometriosis. There are people who think, oh, it's just a period thing. You only have pain when you have periods. No, you can have pain outside of your period. You can have pain with your period. You don't have to be on your period to have pain with endometriosis. You can hurt constantly. You can have hurt before, you can hurt during, you can hurt after your period. And if your cycle is 28 days exactly, you are lucky. But I'm pretty sure all 28 of those days, you're hurting in some way, shape, or form. Endometriosis pain can be debilitating. It can take you out. It can make it to the point where you just want to crawl up in a ball and die. It hurts. It is not the best thing. And when I say that I was taking like obscene amounts of medication, by the time before I got my surgery to remove it completely, and when I say remove, I mean I had everything removed, I was literally on 800 milligrams of ibuprofen and taking it every day. And sometimes that was not enough. Like ibuprofen, what else was I taking? Tramadol, like any kind of that rare case where somebody prescribed me what oxy, yeah, Like, not addicted, not taking it just because I don't want to be in pain. No, and for me, I would literally sit there and suffer because I didn't want to be addicted to pain medications. So, it 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 kills. It kills to have endometriosis. I'm supposed to be educating you and I'm talking about myself. My bad. I'm sorry. So, um, what? More than likely, somebody will sit there and be like, oh, well, the best way to cure endo is to have a baby. That is not always the case. Sometimes you can get endo from having a baby. And I don't mean vaginally, but if you have a C-section, it will say, for instance, if you have a C-section. Sorry, I'm getting text messages while I'm recording this, and I'm really trying not to be distracted. So, if you get a C-section and they pull the baby out, you can get endo that way because the scar tissue will grow everywhere. And like it spreads like wildfire. Um, but when people say yes, if you have a baby, you won't have endo anymore. That's not true necessarily. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not gonna have endo anymore. It just means that you're really, really lucky that you're that it didn't cause infertility. Like basically, if you can carry once, more than likely you may possibly be able to carry again, and your endo's just not that severe. There are actually 4 different stages of endometriosis. Stage 1 and stage 2 are basically where it's just like random scar tissue that just happens to be on your uterus, on your fallopian tubes, on your ovaries, but you're fine. Like it doesn't cause as much pain. Your periods might not be that heavy, and everything still functions normally. Whereas stage 3 and stage 4 are pretty much just debilitating, and it covers everything. I had stage 4, and I know like stage 1, 2, 3, 4, it sounds like it's a cancer, and in some respects it kind of is. Uh, it spreads like flipping wildfire. The best way that I can describe having endo, especially having stage 4 endometriosis, is like having a dog that sheds and that fur gets everywhere. That's pretty much what endometriosis is. And what you look like on the inside is not pretty. Uh, when I had it, I used to describe it like Spider-Man went in my stomach and had a field day. Because that's pretty much what it looks like. Spider-Man went in your stomach and went and just sprayed everywhere. Like no aim. He decided he was going to practice inside of my stomach, and it was disheartening to look at, and it kind of hurt. Let's see. Can you be diagnosed with it early? Does it, how do you get diagnosed? Again, your doctor doesn't necessarily always have to um, have surgery. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of people told you, oh, well, that's the only way you can be diagnosed. You have to have surgery. You don't always have to have surgery to be diagnosed with endometriosis. I was, but I know a lot of people that weren't, and they know that they have it, and they just kind of live with it. They live with the pain and everything else. And like I said, having endo just, it sucks. Like, I cannot reiterate that enough. Do you have to have surgery? You don't have to have surgery. Can you have surgery? Yes, you can. That's how I was diagnosed. Again, in another story, I will tell you my endo story. But for right now, yeah, I was diagnosed via surgery. Um, And it's not necessarily like that invasive. Um, Basically, you can be back to work in a week. If you have to have the surgery, you can be back to work in a week. You can be back to work in 2 weeks. Just depends on how you heal, how you feel, etc. Um, can you prevent it? No, you can't. Is there treatment for it? Yes and no. So, there's medication. Um, when I had it, there were no medications. It was basically pain meds and birth control pills. Those were the things that they used to try and suppress my uh, endometriosis, because my endometriosis affected me in a lot of negative ways. Um, and by the time I had my final surgery, there was actually a whole medicine called Orlissa, and it was kind of disheartening to sit there and have surgery and then turn on the TV and there is a whole commercial for an endo pain medicine. I'm not sure what it does. Um, I think it's supposed to be for pain management, and that's about it. That's all I know about Orlissa. Um, Lupron Depot. Then there's the Depot shot. You don't want to be on the Depot shot because the Depot shot, 9 times out of 10, makes you blow up like a beached whale. Lupron Depot, however, I was on Lupron Depot. It is a series of 6 shots. You have, well, no, not necessarily. It's 4 shots. You have your initial shot, and then there's the secondary shot, there's your third shot, and then your fourth and final shot. So the first 3 months are kind of like tester months. So they give you just enough to suppress or to kind of try and fix it for 3 months. And the first 3 months, that first month was great. Second month, not so much. Third month, not so much. Fourth month, no more periods, and you're like, yay. However, Lupron Depot puts you through premenopause. So you get the hot flashes, the mood swings, and everything that comes with it. And you really have to make sure when you're on Lupron Depot that you have a good support system around you. You cannot be by yourself because it will send you sometimes into a deep depression. There are people who go on it and they're perfectly fine. And then there are people who get on it and if they have a partner, they end up splitting. There are people who get on it and they don't have a support system around them and it sends them spiraling. And then there are people who have a good support system around them and they get through it, they get on it, they get through it, and they get done with it and they're good. Those are the only 2 things I know. As far as surgeries are concerned, your doctor can go in laparoscopically. It's literally just 5 little itty bitty cuts. There's one on your belly button, one on the side, one on your left, one on your right, maybe one more underneath. And they go in with their little tools, because you got the main one that blows your tummy up. There's another one with the camera. Then there's the 2 tools that actually, one that holds, one that cuts. And they go in with their little tools and they go in and they take out and take off as much endo as they possibly can. They try to clean it up. Sometimes you get a lot of it. Sometimes you get all of it. Sometimes you don't get all of it. And that's the most I can tell you on that. Ooh, Lordy. You heal quick. They remove the endomaterial, they remove cysts, all of that. And that's another thing that endometriosis causes. It causes cysts on your ovaries. And that's how a lot of people find out, actually, is the most painful way you possibly can find out that you have something. Like, the only thing that probably even matches that is having God, I can't think of it right now. your appendix rupture. It's the only thing that's close to that. And it's like having firecrackers go off in your stomach. It's just not a pleasant experience. Um, I read an article recently on Cosmo about funding for endometriosis awareness, for research, for cures and medications, and I was extremely disappointed. Like, the article was good, but it said that funding for research for endometriosis has been cut in the last 4 years. And we all know the very colorful person who has been in office for the last 4 years. Yeah, in the last 4 years, endo research has been basically cut, not even in half. It has been like literally dwindled down to nothing. Like, there are in previous years, in the previous 8+ years, endo used to get millions upon millions of dollars for research, and lately this year it literally got like 6 million. And 6 million to us normal folks sounds like a lot. Like, oh, 6 million, okay, we got 6 million. No. You want to know who else gets $6 million? Hay fever. They give $6 million to hay fever research. Basically, you sneeze, you cough because of ragweed and the dust and the pollen in the air, and we get the same funding. Like, that's not enough. And like, politicians will sit there when they're interviewed and be like, oh, that's because nobody has asked for the funding, so if they're not going to ask for it, we're not going to give it. And no, people are asking for this funding and they're just not getting it. Like, their requests are being ignored, like, totally and completely, and it's not fair. It's not the best. It's not great. Like, it sucks. It sucks a whole fucking lot, and it angers me as somebody who suffers from endometriosis to hear that funding for something that could possibly help me gets nothing. Like, birth control is flipping free, and you will not fund something to help me have a baby, but you'll fund something to keep me from having a baby. Like, getting approved for a hysterectomy was a lot easier than getting approved to get my eggs taken out. Like, it costs less. Not fair. Not fair at all. And I'm pretty sure you just saw me spit all over myself, and I apologize for that. That's gross. So, as far as it dealing with African American women, most people are like, oh, that's a white woman's disease. It's not. It's not a white woman's disease. It's an everybody disease. We've got Marilyn Monroe suffered from endometriosis. Padma Lasky suffers from endometriosis. What is that woman's name? The dancer. Julianne Hough. She suffers from endometriosis. I think Whoopi Goldberg suffers from endometriosis. Like, there are a lot of women, there are a lot of women of color who deal with endometriosis as a whole, and it flipping sucks. And if you hear the train in the background, I live in the country, and trains are long, and I would have to stop this in order to record. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Hopefully the music playing in the background is a lot louder than this train. So, we as African American women, we get fed that stereotype. Oh, you gotta be a strong black woman, and it is literally a stereotype that a whole rant could go off of, and would be a whole lot of unpopular opinion, and we're not gonna go there because I want to stay on YouTube long enough to get paid. Yeah. So, so Anyways, we can't feed into the strong black woman stereotype. If you are hurting, if you are in pain, tell somebody. Tell your doctor. Hopefully you have a black doctor. Hopefully you have a doctor who knows what endometriosis is, who knows how it affects women, who knows that it is painful, that it is horrible and horrendous, and that it is something that can take you out completely. Um, you know, don't sit here and think that you're weak just because you're in pain. Like, I was in pain, and I tried being as strong as I possibly could. Like, and I had no choice. Like I said, I live in a country. I live in the country, and I live in a very small town. And unfortunately, I get what I say good old boyed a lot. I live in the South. Um, and as an African American woman who has nothing but Caucasian doctors, I literally had one doctor who was extremely sympathetic to my cause, and that was just because he was the one who diagnosed me. My main doctor literally let me suffer for 2 years before she figured anything was wrong. And again, it's a whole other rant, whole other story that I will tell you next week. In conclusion, talk to your doctor. You have to talk to your doctor. Don't sit there and suffer in silence. Don't wonder what's wrong. It's gonna send you into a deep, deep, deep depression, and you'll end up suffering unnecessarily for no reason. And don't overdose. Like, if you're in pain and things don't feel right, tell somebody that things just don't feel right. Like, it's okay. It is okay. It's not okay to not be okay. That was so cliche, but it's true. It's not okay to not feel okay. If you hurt, tell somebody. Like, I am begging you. I am begging and pleading with you, please. If you're hurting, tell your doctor. If you're hurting, if your periods, if you feel like you are losing obscene amounts of blood when you have your cycle, tell your doctor. Please tell your doctor. They need to know that you're suffering, because there's the distinct possibility you could probably die. Like, there have been people who have died. Like, I've seen it in the Facebook group. Speaking of which, there is help. There are support groups. There are people who are going to be there for you. When I got diagnosed, I looked it up, and I looked up support groups on Facebook. There's the Association of there's the Association of Endometriosis. There's endometriosis.org. There's myendoteam.org. There's speakendo.com. EndoFound, Cooper, Genomic. What the hell? I can't read my writing. I am so sorry. Cooper Genomic Support Group, which sounds absurd, but it's there. And I get emails from them daily, like literally daily. There is the distinct possibility that you might have to have a hysterectomy and totally and completely give up the hope of bearing a child of your own. But there are so many children out there in the world who need a family, who need a mother or a father, both. So Don't think that it's all lost. Don't give up hope. And I know this crying literally came out of nowhere, but sorry. Yeah, so basically that's all I have to say about that. Like, I don't mean to end it on such a harsh note, but it's a tough thing. And, you know, I felt alone for a really long time having. And it literally wasn't until the bitter end that I found out I wasn't. And I don't want that for anybody else. So, um, comment down below. Um, and I hope that this made you feel better. I hope this was informative in any way, shape, or form. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I just hope you didn't click away. I hope you stayed long enough to get some kind of information out of this. Um, Not quite sure where the links are going to be here. I don't know if they're going to be here or here, but click them. Like I said, I am not a medical professional. If you want uh, medical opinion on this, I'm links will be over here or over here. I, I'm still learning how this goes here because if I think it's here, it's probably going to be over there. So it's probably over here. Yeah. So click the link, um, and check out everything who I link for PCOS, for endometriosis. Mama Dr. Jones is a good source for women's health. People have been begging her for months. Hey, if she sees this and thinks that I did a good job, thank you so much. But for right now, thank you so much. This outro's taking too long. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I hope you have a good day. If you like anything I had to say today, if you're curious to find out why I had endo or how I had endo and anything else, any other information, beauty looks, etc., anything else I can put on this channel legally and not get in trouble for, stick around, subscribe. Subscribe to Simply Desmond. Yeah, that, because I'm on his podcast, Unapologetically Honest, this month, and for the foreseeable future, we will be doing Drag Race every Friday. Right now, our first episode podcast has hit 12,000 views. I'm pretty sure I said that in the beginning, but if I didn't, I'm saying it now. So, like and subscribe, and thank you very much. And I hope that you have a friend in me. Thank you. Bye.